Ruchira, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I am so glad that we've got this opportunity to be present with you today. I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's joined us this evening for the Grand World Space Week with the theme Women in Space and the Outreach 2021. I am Mehek Gole from SSERD, currently pursuing Bachelor's of Technology in Engineering Physics from Delhi Technological University. So, talking about me, I am a person who has always been inspired by space. It really excites me a lot, especially the black holes. That's been in my mind since I was in grade 8th. And I've always loved exploring mysteries and solutions that lie in the heart of science. And also I enjoy sketching and reading science fiction books because they are definitely full of marvelous stories that just tickle your brain and you want to just go into it and look for something really different. Yeah. So with me, I have my co-host Ruchira, and together we are the part of managing team for the World Space Week. I would now request Ruchira to come forward and introduce herself.
Thank you, Mehek. I once again welcome you all to the grand opening of World Space Week 2021 organized by SSERD. I am Ruchira Hujgul from SSERD and I'm currently pursuing my aerospace engineering from VIT Bhopal University. What piqued my interest in space was to know about the missions that were planned to the various planets, the technology and the engineering that was involved. I was always curious to know more about it. Apart from that, I also work on space comics and space articles in the various magazines. With this right opportunity of World Space Week and the theme Women in Space, I would like to start this session with a small story. But it's just not a story, the story has clues. So please listen keenly and try to guess who this story is about. So I begin. She was born to a peasant family in Russia in 1937. She began to work at a textile factory when she was 18 years. By the age of 22, she had already completed her parachute jump under a local aviation club. Her enthusiasm and curiosity in skydiving had brought her to the notice of the Soviet space program. She was then trained and equipped to handle one of the most challenging tasks in the Vostok place flight, which was the mandatory ejection from the capsule from about 20,000 feet. In Feb 1962, along with other three women, she was selected for the cosmonaut program. On 16 June 1963, she changed the course of history for women and paved the way for women in the space industry. So, any guesses? If audience could recognize it, please type in the chat boxes. I guess you haven't guessed it, but yes, she's none other than the first woman to travel in space, Valentina Tereshkova. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, Ruchira, for enlightening all of us with such an inspirational story. And I believe everyone would want to know so much more and explore with us. So, well, then, let's get started along this exultant event. So, to remark the importance of this week, celebrating the exceptional struggles and challenges and the victory of women in space, Ruchira, how do you really think that space industry has evolved with women contribution?
First, I would like to really appreciate the question because it aptly suits the theme of women in space. So, I'd like to answer this question by listing some extraordinary achievements. Apart from being astronauts for decades, women have performed essential roles and enabled the safe development of human spaceflight. Starting with the hidden figure, mathematician Katherine Johnson was instrumental in getting astronauts into the orbit safely and helped put humans on moon. Another remarkable contribution by computer scientist Margaret Hamilton was crucial to the safety of NASA's lunar missions. We have Tessie Thompson, known as the Missile Woman of India, who was the first woman scientist to help an Indian missile project. Meenal Rohit, an Indian scientist and system engineer of ISRO, who helped send the Mangalyaan probe to Mars. Hope probe, launched by the United Arab Emirates to study the Martian atmosphere, was then led by Sara Al Amiri. And the list just goes on, and the names keep adding. So, at this very moment, talking about women, how women have been a valuable asset to the space industry, I remember a quote by Sally Ride. She said, "If we want scientists and future, we should be cultivating the girls as we cultivate the boys." And I think every girl, woman who's watching this session would definitely agree with her. So, Meg, what do you think? Are women really a valuable asset to the space industry?
Yes, Rushira, I definitely think women are definitely a valuable asset, not just to space industry, but any industry. Because right now, also mentioning about women like Valentina, Sally Ride, Mary Jackson, and even our panelists like Dr. Seetha and Emily, we have such huge panelists. We have so many women panelists who are such great who are such great in their fields and who have contributed so much throughout their lives, and they've actually helped in advancing space missions by breaking all the boundaries and telling us that yes, if there are boundaries, we're not supposed to consider them as an obstacle, but to move ahead and challenge and take all the challenges equally well and then play forward. And definitely women are in all fields. As you just look around, we have women doctors, we have women astronaut, engineers, experts. They all manage their families equally well, but along with that they do pursue their careers so well that we are inspired by such women. And I do consider it an honor to be present in such an event where we'll have so many good women panelists who will be actually briefing about their journeys and motivating all of us. So yes, women are definitely a valuable asset in any industry. So, just wondering, like, I still remember my first day at SSERD. I was a little bit shy and also like scared, but the very thing I was too much excited was about space, because since childhood I was so much interested about space. I would look at star, ask my mom thousands of questions like how space evolves, what is actually happening, why are the moon shining, why is in the moon shining, what's happening. So I knew that SSERD is definitely a platform which will answer most of my questions. It just didn't answer all my questions. It definitely provided me a platform where I could, you know, present my own views. And it also, there were people who supported me, motivated me throughout my journey. So I thank SSCRD on that behalf. And also talking about SSCRD, it is basically a space education research and development society, which is an independent and a non-profit organization. So it works full-fledgedly to achieve greater heights by reaching out to maximum number of space enthusiasts just like me and you, and helping in laying a path for their journeys. So we focus to give students adequate exposure in the field of space, technology, and astronomy. We're, we're honored to be a part of SSERD. So on the occasion of women in space, like celebrating this event, I remember what once Neil deGrasse Tyson said. He said, "We're all connected to each other biologically, and to the earth chemically, and to the universe atomically." And I'm sure, like almost all the kids during their childhood would once have thought that they could touch the sky just by climbing few ladders. I mean, I did so when I was a kid. I actually thought that just two ladders I would need, or just three ladders. And I mean, if not this, but many such curious fantasies would come to our mind. So, for such inquisitive minds, we have the World Space Week. You must be wondering what exactly World Space Week is, so let me brief you with that. World Space Week is a global one-week event that is held from 4th to 10th of October each year and was first declared in 1999 by the United Nations General Assembly in the remembrance of launch of first man-made satellite Sputnik 1 and signing of the Treaty of Principles governing the activities of state in the exploration and peaceful use of outer space, including the moon and the other celestial bodies. This year's theme for World Space Week is Women in Space, where we all stand up to honor the extraordinary journey of talented and smart women in space industry, celebrating their awards, achievements, and standing contribution. So get ready for some exciting competitions, special workshops, and informative panel discussion, which will be briefed about in the end by Ruchira. So stay connected, stay tuned with us because we have a lot of surprises for all our space enthusiasts. And also mentioning WSW is not just it. We have more for you. WSW will be followed by SSCRD's annual outreach program, which in true sense is an example of connecting space cohorts throughout the world, giving them a chance to acknowledge the beauty of space, science, and technology, thereby unraveling some of the mysterious questions that still lie out there. Now, I would request Ruchira to come up on stage and introduce Markus and take this program forward.
Thank you, Mahek. Taking the program forward, I would like to thank UNOOSA, the program partner for World Space Week 2021. UNOOSA, United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, which works to promote international cooperations in the peaceful use and exploration of space and also in the utilization of space science and technology for sustainable economic and social development. UNOOSA has always supported SSRD with the programs like Space for Youth, in which SSRD inspired around 50,000 students from India, Uganda, Philippines, and beyond. So, to represent UNOOSA today among us, we have Markus Woltran. Markus is experienced program officer for the Outer Space Affairs at the United Nations Office. Markus has professional experience in strategy formulation and policy assistance. He graduated from the University of Vienna with a master's degree in political science. He's also skilled in the project management and international relations. Now, I would like to call upon Markus to take the screen and start with his presentation. Markus, you're muted.
Hear me now and see my screen? Can you just quickly confirm? That would be great. Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Markus Woltran. Thanks a lot for the kind introduction. But first and foremost, thank you for the kind invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here, represent the Office for Outer Space Affairs on something which we have been developing and working on since quite a while, and perfectly fitting in this year's World Space Week Association theme. So we are happy to be able to join that celebration, and I am happy to present you a bit of a background what the Office for Outer Space Affairs is doing on Space for Women and how we're trying to align our work on a bit more gender equality and education in the space sector. So thank you for the invitation again, and thank you very much for putting together such an exciting week and an exciting program. So Space for Women is actually a program by the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, and it is an initiative that promotes, well, the Office for Outer Space Affairs promotes international cooperation in the peaceful uses of outer space, with a generic goal, overall goal, obviously, as we have at the United Nations at the moment, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Within that and underneath that, we have the Space for Women initiative, which is a program by the office that facilitates access to the benefits of space exploration, science, and STEM education and STEM careers for women and girls all around the world. So specifically looking at the 17 different Sustainable Development Goals, we can pick out SDG 4 and highlight obviously SDG 5, but I will show you later on that it is not only those two very obvious SDGs, which are addressed by a work on getting more women to the space sector, but there's obviously other SDGs also benefiting from this work, as gender equality, as we all know, is one of the cross-cutting SDGs which goes into all of the other 17 SDGs and helps us to achieve, in one way or the other, all of them. So I would like to circle back a bit and present a bit on why we do what we are doing. Obviously, most of this information is something which all of you know already, but since I'm honored to have the first speaking role today, I would like to also highlight a few of the reasons why we do what we do. So we all know women and girls remain unrepresented in STEM at every career stage. We have heard the inspiring words from Ms. Tereshkova and the story around Ms. Tereshkova, but we also heard in the introduction that space is not only about going to space. Space is made up by so many different other fields. And obviously an education in STEM is a first step towards that career. But we also know that that there are many important steps before that, which are important to get more women and more women into the space field. So gender disparity widens at the secondary and tertiary school level in many countries. Even if girls score as well as, or even better than the male peers on science and math-related tests, it is less likely for them to pursue a career in the education. Women represent only 35% of all students enrolled in STEM related higher education. And then when you look at the career path, the declining representation for women all along the typical career path is striking. So all of this in combination is the fundamental basis for the unfortunate gender equality in the STEM fields. You can highlight this with many different, obviously space-related statistics. I have said space is not only about going about going to space. The first 3 bullets obviously address that, but when you look at the total number of people going to space, only 11% have been women. Only 15 have conducted spacewalks, and after 20 years of progress at the ISS, 2 female astronauts finally took part in a single extravehicular activity only last year. So it took a very long time to get this all-female spacewalk done. But when you look at the private sector, women CEOs represent 19% of the leaders in aerospace and defense. And when you look at the workforce all over in the space industry in itself, it's only 20 to 22% which are represented as an industry workforce. And that's all statistics which we try to change. But the one thing which I am really, every time when I speak about this slide, is the fact that this is the percentage of the women representative in the space industry workforce has not changed over the past 30 years. It's always something which when I present this slide, when I talk about the statistics, it's something which I am really eager to change and support from the United Nations Office for Space Affairs point of view, to get this number higher and actually change these statistics. So I told you from before that that while the goal of a space woman is addressing primarily maybe SDG 4 and SDG 5, it's obviously not one of the main. It's obviously not the only goals, because as I said before, gender equality is cross-cutting to all SDGs, and I personally regard it as a societal need. It is obviously, gender equality is obviously gearing in one direction, but I think when you look at these examples, it is a societal need. So space tends to offer a high earning job in a fast growing sector, providing women more financial freedom and significant contribution to the household income. 90% of future jobs will require STEM related skills, and the entire society and women must possess the skill and education to be competitive in the future employment market. So that's where we set space woman. And studies, and that's something which is obvious, but we need to remind ourselves. Studies in both in private and public sector have shown that diversity of skills and perspectives leads to greater innovation and success. It's just a given fact. So that's really something which is highlighting that it is only by these 3 examples we can highlight how important it is to have an equality in STEM educations on the one hand side, but also how STEM education equality can lead to a higher equality in the space sector. So why do women and girls not enter or leave the STEM fields, and how can we change that? So we know from different studies that there's a bias in the hiring process, that male candidates get selected more often, regardless of any qualifications. STEM fields are still portrayed as male roles, which undermines confidence, interest, and willingness to pursue a career in STEM. There's a lack of role models, is making it difficult to picture themselves in STEM roles. And here I would like to highlight, it's not exclusively role models which are globally known or which are well known. It's actually our hosts today, the moderators today. These are all perfect role models which can underline and make other women consider going into or girls consider going into a career into STEM. Same questions apply for them, which you have presented in the opening. So it's the lack of role models with regards to the accessibility to role models, less their status or the global fame. Lack of encouragement from peers and teachers and parents in holding women and girls back. And girls have a limited exposure to creativity and contributions to STEM, making for a better world. So all of that different points is it a mixture for women and girls not entering into the STEM fields, and we are looking into how we can change that by actually doing space for women. Considering the time, I'm going to skip that slide. I just wanted to highlight with that slide that there is a long-standing discussion within our committee, the Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space, how we can get more women into STEM fields. And that's actually the timeline of Space Woman. So how does Space Woman increase access to STEM and space education and jobs? On the one hand side, we promote a mentoring platform and a network. We provide policy-relevant advice and research and data knowledge for evidence-based awareness raising, facilitating capacity building and training, communication on the opportunities, and obviously empowering young women and girls to be the beneficiaries of the solutions of space technologies. So I wanted to highlight a bit on the launch of the Space Woman website and the entire network of mentors, which started in the spring of 2020. So the objectives back then was, when we started the entire work, was to advocate for women and girls in the STEM field, to support industry leaders and establish a regional and global mentorship network. So what are the roles and the commitments of our mentors? It's, on the one side, promoting STEM education. There's a direct engagement between the women and the girls. It's a one-on-one, and we match the mentors with the mentees. There is a mentorship for 1 year, and our mentors provide us with annual reports about their achievements throughout the year. So how does it look? How far have we come in the first year? And I'm going to share with you a bit of the updates of the second year. So we have, in the first year since its existence in the start of 2020, we have received 35 mentor applications from 19 countries. And something which I really would like to highlight, and what we heard before, it's not only about going to space, it's so many different careers which make space research, science, education, technology, and application development successful. It is including law, including engineering, including policy, business, communication, science. So we have different careers as mentors. From looking from the mentees' perspective, is that we have 3/4 from female participants, but we also have male peers, and that's something which I really stress all the time. Mentees and mentors, it should not only be exclusively from women for women, it should also be that women can mentor male mentees, and also that male mentors can mentor women. Otherwise, we won't make a change in our society, because, as I said before, it is a societal need rather than an exclusive gender equality requirement. It is, as I said before, and I cannot stress it enough, it is a societal request. So now we have, this year, we welcomed in April this year, we welcomed a new cohort of 55 mentors from all over the world, with different background, with different experience, with different knowledge from the space sector. The 50 mentors are living and working in over 30 different countries, again from a different background, with a different expertise. We are working towards filling all the gray dots in blue in the future. We have over 180 connections between mentors and mentees created over the past month. And I'm happy to see something like this growing gradually into something which is really successful, and a really successful mentoring program. Just to summarize what we are doing with Space Woman, on the one hand side, we are mentoring, as you see in the blue. We are currently creating and networking an online platform through the Space Woman website. We're doing, obviously, outreach and awareness raising, and thanks again for the kind invitation to be here today and speak to such a large audience. And we are doing events, networking events. As we all know, the in-person events are most of the time very important for being the driver and the motor behind activities like that. So in actually 2 weeks from now, we are hosting an in-person event on Space Woman in the UAE. It will be an expert meeting where we try to fine-tune a few and shape a bit better our program, and to be able to jointly move forward with our mentors and mentees. I leave it here. That's the end of my presentation. I would like to thank again the organizers for making this happening within the World Space Week, something, as I highlighted from the beginning, which is very close not only to my heart personally, but as a mandate and objective of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. I wish you a good exchange and a good conference, and I'm looking forward to hearing some results and updates coming from your side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Markus, for giving us such a wonderful presentation, which helped us to understand the insightful functioning of UNOOSA. Especially the slide which stated the statistics of gender inequality in your presentation caught my eye. But I hope with the initiatives like Space for Women started by UNOOSA will open a door of opportunities for girls and women in STEM field. Also, I would really appreciate you for giving me your valuable time. We know like due to prior commitments, you won't be able to attend the entire event, but I extend my gratitude to you for adding extra glory to our event. Thank you, Marcus. Mehek, up over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Ruchira. Thank you, Marcus. I would like to welcome our speakers, Dr. Seetha Somasundaram and Emily. Uh, so, before moving ahead, there's something really important that I wish to tell you. So, as Michelle Obama once said, success isn't about how much money you make, it's about the difference you make to people's life. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome Nikhitha among us, who, with a vision to make space education accessible to everyone globally, co founded SSERD, which gives all the young space enthusiasts with opportunities and guidance right from their primary education. We welcome you, Nikhitha. So, on such a great day, Nikhitha, I would like to ask you a very good question. Like, how do you think that what exactly is the reason that women are lagging behind in any STEM field? And what are your views on women in space or technology? And yeah, and like what exactly do you want to say about the vision and the motivation behind SSCRD, and how does it help in contributing women empowerment?
Thank you for that introduction, Mehek. And I'd like to welcome everyone who are part of this whole World Space Week event and our speakers for the day who are eagerly waiting to share their knowledge. But just before that, I want to take some time and share what is this whole World Space, or World Space Week, or particularly the theme of this year, Women in Space, means personally for me and as a co-founder of SSERD. So please allow me to share some information that we have experienced along with everyone, and then we will immediately go back to our panel discussion. So I have a small presentation that I have made. I'll be sharing it while I speak. Um, could anyone confirm if my screen is visible? Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead with our presentation, right? So as I said, SSCRD has been something that we wanted to build because me and Sujay, as co-founders of SSCRD, were space enthusiasts. We just used to talk about space. Whenever we meet, we always talk about what's happening. Okay, which rocket was launched, which satellite was launched, who went to space. This is the only thing which we used to speak, and that got us so interested about space. At the same time, we met a lot of students who were doing their undergraduation, who were actually not sure that they would study so and so subject while they were doing their studies. Few of them were telling that they would be pilots at the end of fourth year of aeronautical engineering. Few of them were telling they thought they would study about stars and planets in aerospace engineering. We felt very bad at that point of time to know that okay, people are not aware of what is space and how they have to take up certain courses in case if they want to study particular programs. So we were like, let's start talking about it. We literally gathered all the space enthusiasts who were in the space domain, and we just made everyone talk about their experience, and we gathered all the students who wanted to learn about it, and that's how SSCRD was started. So our vision became to prepare the community to be part of space revolution. We all know how important space technology is in our day-to-day activities, right? And being a space enthusiast and space lovers, we always want to, create that awareness among everyone. So our mission became to promote space education, to engage everyone in volunteering activities or sharing knowledge, and just enlighten everyone how big the space is, or how important it is, and how nice it is, right? That became our goal, and we started off our work. This is our first astrospace camp, which was conducted in 2017, where we brought up to 100 plus students. I mean, these students had registered across the country. As I said, we focused on college students, and they were like not sure what they were doing. And we thought, if we have to help students, then we have to help the students when they are dreaming about it. And when are they dreaming? It is in their school, right at the school age. So we then decided, let's start a program which will create impact at the right time. And that's when Astrospace Camp was organized and planned. And then we started doing a lot of activities to just tell them about space. And our activities are not just theory based. We developed hands on activities where students can get this hands on experience or practical knowledge. You can see most of our programs over here, like within just the pictures that I have put. I mean, I can give a lot of examples. Whenever there used to be all these events, you we used to see very less number of girls, or sometimes no girls at all. And as a co-founder of SSERD, as a space educator, as an aerospace engineering graduate, I used to be like, why there are no girl students in our program? And then we started working on it to understand what was the problem, what was the issue, and everything. And then we realized that even today, there are some societal problems or social problems that our girls are facing. I was very shocked to know, I was very sad to know, but we had to quickly act on it, and then think of a program which could bring in more number of girls to take up this, right? So that's when we initiated our first ever program, something called a space and astronomy for girls and women, literally in 2018. 2018 we planned, okay, let's have this program, telling it's just for girls and women. Probably then they might forget, okay, all these social problems they would be facing, and it would also be supporting, because we are stressing that it's for girls and women. And to our surprise, we had 200 girls and women, literally from science and non-technical background, working women, who came there to the program and enjoyed the lectures. And the lectures or the talks were again by the the science, or like women speakers. You can see we have Dr. Margarita and Dr. Priya, who spoke about space and astronomy, which actually led all these girl students get interested about it. The response of this program was so wonderful. We went on to create another program called Girls in Space, which was actually a mentorship program where students had to understand different careers that they can think of. And I knew the fact that by 2019 that it's not just a scientist and engineer job that any girl can think of. There are so many other careers that are there, which our girls can try, uh, you know just start thinking if they can work in that, if they like it, or just know that there are so many careers out there which they can take in their lives. This was again one of the wonderful program. By the end of this program, we had so many girls who said that, ma'am, I want to become a space architect. There was one girl who said, ma'am, I want to do space farming. And this was I could just say that I was so happy to see this program coming up. And even till date, these girls are working on various space related projects, and they have decided what they have to take, in which path to go in. This is wonderful program that we planned. And if you remember, just some time back, Markus was telling one of the most the problem is our girls don't have an example to see. If you all know that most of us want to become an astronaut because of Kalpana Chawla, and probably recently because of Sirisha Banla as well. Even I started feeling like I have to go to space. There are so many girls out there who want to become an astronaut. But then for other various professions out there, they don't know whom they have to think as role models or whom they have to consider as examples. So we started bringing in women speakers from various backgrounds and started telling, or we asked all the speakers to share their journey in their working experience. And this again became one of the motivation factor for all our girls participants. I mean, I wouldn't say again just girls. In fact, everyone who were at SSERD. We had astronaut, we had speaker from astrophysics background, we had a lot of entrepreneurs out there. We had space lawyer Deepika Jayakuri. We had people from various background who kept on talking in this kind of uh, again became one of the important thing that we had to set examples for people to follow. Another major work that we have done in the domain of women in space or girls in space is that recently we started our online programs, and we made sure that students get scholarship, and we made sure 50% of the scholarship goes to girls. That's what we made sure, so that we give equal opportunity for girls who can't afford to take part in the programs. There's another example here. So these are some of these steps that we from SSERD have taken to inspire girls to take up space science and to support them. Coming towards Space Week, we started SSERD in 17, and we did our first event in 17. There were a lot of events that were set up in 2018 where we had keynote speakers like Dr. Mailaswamy Annadurai. We had a field trip to space, to Team Indus and ISRO, and wonderful things at that time. 2019, we had NASA's one of the engineer visiting India and meeting thousands of students. And in 2020, our online event was also, amazingly done with so many speakers. What happened in 2021? We were so happy to hear that the theme of this year is women in space. As I said, I kept on telling you this was one of the important things that we kept on focusing from the beginning. And when women in space theme was announced, I couldn't just stop myself from planning out events and activities which could inspire our girls and women and everyone, I could say. And that's when SSERD World Space Week 2021 was planned with amazing speakers out there with the theme of women in space. As I said, we have amazing panel discussions that's spread out with special workshops, which is going to help for overall development, and then a lot of competitions with prizes. With this, I would like to leave all of you here and enjoy as much as possible, learn as much as possible from this whole World Space Week event.
Yeah, so thank you, Nikhitha, for enlightening all of us with such great thoughts. And I'm sure it would inspire all our young space enthusiasts to work and let nothing stop them from pursuing their dreams. So, SSARD definitely realizes that junior scientists in all of us, and hence gives many internship opportunities and science programs throughout the year. So, don't forget to check the official website of SSARD and stay updated. Now, hold your breath as I'm going to introduce to you our wonderful speakers for today. First, we have Dr. Seetha Somasundaram. She worked as a program director at ISRO Space Science Program Office, contributing extensively to the development of space science instrumentation of Indian science payload. She completed her Bachelor's of Science in Physics honors from Hindu College, and then her Master's of Science in Physics from IIT Madras, followed by which she completed her PhD in Physics from IISc Bangalore. Her areas of research is in the field of astronomy, particularly the study of variable stars in X-ray and optical bands. She has been awarded with the C.V. Raman Young Scientist Award in Physical Science for the year 2003 and many such awards. And then we have Emily Sylak-Glassman. So, Emily is the program manager in the Applied Science program within the Earth Science Division at NASA headquarters. She completed her Bachelor's of Science degree in Chemistry and Biological Chemistry from the University of Chicago, followed by which she did her PhD in Chemistry from the University of California, Berkeley. She manages a broad portfolio of efforts across the Applied Science program and leads the program strategy and budget planning. In addition, she is the lead of NASA's partnership with the global humanitarian organization Mercy Corps, which aims to help vulnerable communities in building resilience to complex stresses. We're so honored to have you both today with us in this panel. Thank you for joining us this evening. I would now request Nikhitha to come forward and moderate the panel discussion.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today.
Yeah, thank you, SSERD, for giving us this opportunity to be here with you today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Seetha and Dr. Emily. We are so happy. We are so proud. I just don't have words to say. Thank you so much for, spending your time, your valuable time along with us to share your knowledge, your experience with all of our audience. So let's start off, I think, with the first question, which goes with the theme. I would want to ask you all, how was your journey started? Like, how did you get into space, right? Like, as I said, we would like to know how was your journey towards space started, because we know that you have worked on various space missions, which was so important. From that thought of whatever made you to get into this field to what you are right now, how did that happen? Probably we can start with Dr. Seetha and then we go to Dr. Emily. We would be very happy to hear from you.
Thanks, Nikhitha, for this interesting question. For me personally, it was my interest in instrumentation and science, the two combined. That is what I was looking for in my career, and that this ISRO, which it was just recent at that time when I joined in the 1980, and ISRO gave me that opportunity to combine both instrumentation development and science, and it was a new field, new emerging area, I should say, and team spirit, and what should I say, timely completion of projects. That was one more thing which was very, very good, because you knew that something you're working on is reaching its uh, end stages. Yeah.
Awesome. That's wonderful to know, ma'am. Let's also hear from Dr. Emily.
Sure. So I would say my path to working in a space organization was not straightforward. And I also wanted to say, because I think self-confidence can be a real issue for a lot of women and girls. There were lots of times I thought, maybe I don't belong. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I shouldn't be here. So I just wanted to say, for all those people who have those thoughts, it's okay to have those thoughts, and it's still okay to continue in the field. So I started out in chemistry, and I think, similar to Dr. Seetha, I wanted to build something. I wanted to do something that felt like it mattered. But I was always wondering, why does the scientific enterprise work the way it does? Why are we trained in this model? Why does one grant get funded and another grant doesn't? So from there, I went into science policy, because I really wanted to just understand, how does the scientific enterprise work? From there, I became introduced to this field of Earth observation, how we can take measurements from space of the Earth. And I fell in love with that subject. And I saw so much potential for these measurements from space to help people make decisions to live on the planet sustainably, and to make the world a better place. And so that was kind of my pathway here.
Awesome. Again, that's very inspiring, Dr. Emily. There was, I think for you, when you said it was from your end that you were feeling, should you take it or not? But most of the times we would hear from others telling, I think you shouldn't take this, right? This is what we also get to hear from others. But the will that you had to make sure what you wanted to do it and you made it happen, that's wonderful. So I have my second question, and I think both of you could answer in this. You've been into this whole space domain from a long time. So from the time that you were in, like you started your journey till date, whatever is happening, can you tell me something that you are like very, I can say, surprising, or something that you're very happy that it has happened, it has changed in the space domain, like from the time you started till date? Probably you can start with Dr. Emily and then we go to Dr. Seetha now.
I think what's been surprising and exciting for me, a few things. One is how these tools and techniques and methods that were just in the realm of the top tier academic researchers 10 years ago are now kind of tools in the toolbox that almost anyone can use. So we see this a lot with the use of machine learning algorithms. We see this with the use of high resolution satellite data, things that were these big ideas of maybe could we, now people are actually using them. And I would say that's really exciting to see, kind of the democratization of a lot of intellectual advances.
Great. That's really very important, because one example that I recently saw was long back when astronauts used to go to space, everything was switches. Now it has become touchscreen. I think that is again one of the major change that I see is like amazing for me and probably all of the astronauts also. Dr. Seetha, ma'am, what do you say?
For me, there are, I think, three main points, which I've seen over the entire about 39 years I've spent in the space area. One is, people are becoming more aware of, especially within India. When I started working, people hardly knew about ISRO, whereas with this recent missions, uh, there are even common people who are becoming aware of what's happening in space. That's one thing, even though limited. The second thing is, technologically, we have, I mean, the world over, there have been missions all the way to the farthest planet, Pluto. There have been even missions to the comet and asteroid, bringing back a sample from asteroid which was thought to be almost impossible, happening now in the recent past. So that sort of makes us all feel that nothing is impossible. We can reach out there wherever we want to go. So that's one major thing which has happened. As far as women are concerned, I think I see their growth within in the Indian context, remarkable growth, because when I joined, there were very few, much fewer than what they are now. Even now, as Markus said, there are still few women, and that is a major issue. And as you said, in the Indian context, it's primarily not women, not the number of women who enter into the STEM. There are many women who enter into the area of STEM studies, but the number of women who actually get into a career in STEM studies, STEM subjects, and also particularly in space. So, but While I was there, when we began our career, we were mostly working in the design and research and development of the experiments. But now there are women in ISRO who are at deputy director levels. They are managing areas with hundreds of people working under them. There are project directors who ensure the delivery of the complete project hardware. There are mission directors who actually work from the concept to the realization of the mission. There are operations directors who actually ensure that the operation of the launch or the satellite happens as planned. So that for me personally is, I feel, a great growth for women in space, because there have been a large number of women who have sustained the growth of women in this area, and that's how they have risen to these um, uh, top level decision making roles, I should say. And with the new commercial arm of ISRO coming into place, the new Space India Limited, I expect many more career opportunities for women in India. And I'm looking forward to the day when women will be occupying the top posts in the organization. Thank you.
Amazing, ma'am. The way you covered every single bits and pieces, what you have experienced in your career, and just telling us how it was before to what is happening right now. And it's all positive and it's all good. And we just need to wait for that much more bigger things to happen in this whole domain, I could say. I have a question to Dr. Emily. You've been working in this applied sciences, space sciences. We always, think that satellites are something that's just sent to space. But could you just explain us that process of turning that satellites back towards Earth and knowing more about Earth, and how does that actually happen? And if you can also tell all of our audience, how has it been helping everyone? Because I'm pretty sure that among our audience there might be many who might still not understand how our Earth observation system would work or applied sciences of satellites would work. So if you can just throw some light, take as much as time you can, but yeah, if you can brief, it will be really great.
Sure, and for context, even here within the U.S., when I say I work at NASA and then I say I look at the Earth, people think, wait, NASA looks at the Earth. Not everyone is aware that that a large part of our organization is dedicated to studying our home planet. But I would say Earth is a very worthy planet to study, just like the others. So it's important what we do. So we have a whole fleet of Earth observing satellites that some are orbiting the Earth over the poles. Some we have actually sensors and instruments on the International Space Station going kind of this way. We have geostationary satellites that are, they basically rotate along with the Earth. So they're always looking at the same place on Earth. So we have this whole suite of measurements, and they're taking all sorts of different measurements about the Earth: sea surface temperature, land cover, and there are so many how we can look at the height of the ice sheets. We can look at so many different parameters of the Earth, the cryosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere. And really what we're trying to do is create this whole understanding of the Earth as an interconnected system. Because, for example, as we know that the atmosphere warms, it's going to be melting glaciers. As we know that those glaciers melt, it's going to be rising the sea level. And we're trying to create this integrated picture of how our planet is changing. Because it's only through understanding what's going on with our planet that we can start to make decisions to manage it in a better way. So one thing that's very exciting is we recently announced that the next suite of satellite missions is going to be our Earth System Observatory, to really be looking at to get this entire picture of the Earth and its changing. And actually, the first satellite that's going to be in that Earth System Observatory is a joint mission with ISRO. It's NISAR, which is going to be taking 2 different types of radar measurements of the Earth. And what's really cool about that is radar sees through clouds. It doesn't care if it's nighttime or daytime. And it's going to be creating this kind of view of the world we've never been able to have before, where we can not only see basically how the Earth's surface is changing and deforming, but we'll be able to see oil spills from space. We'll be able to see landslides, so many different applications. And so that's where I sit, where we're trying to say, for all of the scientific information that we're getting, how do we serve the broadest community? How do we make sure it's benefiting society, not just advancing academic research, which is incredibly important, but putting that information into use? I hope that helps.
It surely helps all of our audience to understand how important it is, because most of the time when I have seen this conversation happen among the common people, and then if there anyone who's working in the space sector asking, why are we spending so much money on space when we have so many problems? I think the most common question, and you answered or you gave reasons for that question, like how important it is to take care of things here on Earth, and it's possible because of space technology, how it's been helping us, and we're not going on loss. It's been helping more and more with recent challenges that we all are facing, the climate, or the weather, cyclones, and everything. Space has always been helpful, and that thought of using satellites back to know what's happening here on Earth and helping many people, that's like really nice. Ma'am, would you like to add any points on the same question?
Yeah. While Emily said about applications being a surprise, especially Earth observations being a surprise there, it's the opposite here. In India, the aim of the space program by Dr. Vikram Sarabhai was to actually apply space technology for societal needs, because India is a different kind of country. It did not have and it still doesn't have as much funding for basic research as it does for applied sciences. So the communication satellites and the remote sensing satellites got the priority in India, and even today they get the priority. And I can definitely say that because I am from the science area, so we had to wait several years to get opportunities for a dedicated astronomy satellite like the Astrosat. And so we used to go piggyback on a remote sensing satellite. And as she said, India has this monsoon for three to 4 months a year, starting from sometime in May or June and ending in sometime in September. So during those days, the remote sensing cameras, which were then only optical, could not do much remote sensing anyway. So we pointed our X-ray astronomy experiment to the sky, which was piggyback riding on IRS-P3, IRS meaning Indian Remote Sensing Satellite. So those 3 months we used for X-ray observations of stars, and that's how the justification came that we could technologically do this and scientifically that it was fruitful to justify a dedicated mission like Astrosat. So that's the connection I wanted to bring in. And yeah, applications are extremely important for studying, especially with the varied kind of geography which India has. We have arid regions, we have cold arid regions, we have hot arid regions, we have glaciers, we have mountains, we have plains, which are of totally agricultural lands. We have a lot of geographical variety in our country, and that all studying all that happens with remote sensing. And I'm very happy that Emily is here with us, telling us all about the importance of remote sensing. And I'm looking forward to NISAR, because when I was in the headquarters, we had discussions about the beginnings of NISAR. So I'm very happy that it's going to happen soon. Um, and looking forward to the results from that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, could you also share some details on the missions, probably your favorite missions that you would have worked on, and what challenges did you face? Or I wouldn't say challenges, but something that you thought it might not be possible, but the team did it. You know, so if you could share some of that in details, I'm pretty sure it would inspire a lot of future aspirants of scientists or who want to join an ISRO. I mean, we would like to hear from you.
Uh, okay, Nikhitha, I don't have favorites in my space missions. Every mission, or even just an experiment, just a payload, whether piggyback, whether small, whether 5 kg, whether 100 kg, every one of them is as important. We used to call them our kids in our office. And so, but due to paucity of time, I would just tell you about the two latest missions which we had. One is, of course, I can't leave without telling about the Mars Orbiter mission, MOM for short, because we had so many new developments to do in MOM, and it was a real tight time schedule of 18 months. That was really coming to our necks. So there was automation to take care. There was power to take care because we are going farther from the earth. There was what do you call communications to take care, and there was actually reaching out there, and um, engines firing after 10 months, after being in the cold space and then firing after 10 months. So all these were challenges for the science community for which I was responsible. We were allotted just 15 kg for 5 experiments. And so the um, scientists and engineers in charge of each of those experiments had to really wring their mind to find to their brains to actually how to reduce the mass and how to deliver it fully tested, fully qualified within the span of 18 months. So that was a real big challenge for them. And the biggest moment of MOM was, of course, reaching there and uh, putting it into the orbit and waiting for those last 2 minutes when all this was happening without communication in the automated mode. So we were just holding our breath.
I think we have some connection problem from Dr. Seetha's end, but we will wait for her to come back and talk or continue about the mission. I wanted to personally say, or I can say that I wantedly asked that question to see what would all the scientists say, because I know the fact how much effort they put in, and they work without any partiality. So for them, every mission is like their favorite one, so they can't pick onto one mission. And the fact that ma'am started talking about Mangalyaan mission, we all know, I'm pretty sure most of us here would have watched Mangalyaan movie also, and we would have seen how what are the technical problems they faced and everything. And ma'am being one of the major or leading person in the whole Mars orbiter mission program. Pretty sure her experience is so much for us to for all of us to know. So let's wait for ma'am to come back and continue. But until then, I would like to ask Emily a question. What are the future missions that you can talk, particularly about Earth observation or applied science? What are things that are coming up in the future from NASA's, and probably you could also mention about collaborational projects like you already did. But yeah, it would be great to know what's happening out there.
Sure. So I think, as I mentioned before, we're looking to the future with our Earth System Observatory, which will actually be kind of 5 different missions. Let's see. The first one is going to be is NISAR, so this joint mission with ISRO, and then we have missions that will look at surface biology and geology, aerosols, clouds, convection and precipitation, and then mass change. That's maybe one of the most surprising ones, I think, for at least it was surprising to me when I first started learning about satellite measurements, that we can see how we can see basically the gravitational field of the Earth and how it varies across the Earth, because it's not even, which is, if you look at a map of it, it's actually quite lumpy. And when you measure the gravity of the Earth, things that are really heavy have more gravitational pull. So you can see actually underground water storage in aquifers, and you can see how those get depleted during a drought. So we'll have the next set of missions for that as well. So and then so this last week we had the launch of Landsat 9, which continues an almost 50-year legacy of continuous satellite measurements of the Earth's surface to see land use change. So that was incredibly exciting to me, just because Landsat underpins so many of the of any kind of Earth system studies and applications that we see. And then we have a number of launches coming up in the next couple of years, looking at all sorts of parameters. We have SWOT coming up, which is a surface water measurement mission. We'll have PACE, which is an ocean color mission coming up. I mean, the number of things that we will be measuring from space, I think, is really, it's staggering, and it's a very exciting time.
Amazing. In fact, recently I was reading something. Probably you can tell us if that fact is true or not as well. The thing that I came across was, we know most of the things that is there in space, but not what is inside our waters.
I've heard this as well. I can't vouch for this from personal experience, but I do. My understanding is that our exploration of the oceans it remains this big unknown. For similar technological challenges of a very harsh environment. In that case, with so much pressure. Actually, one of Dr. Kathy Sullivan, who was an astronaut and then led the agency NOAA, which is our oceanographic and atmospheric agency here in the U.S., not too long ago did a deep sea exploration. So I think it also, that sense of wanting to explore the universe and our home planet, I think there are people who love them both. Right?
Amazing. That's because that's what caught my interest, and I was like, probably should we start initiating this new topic for all our students? Can you start thinking or working on what we could do to find what's there in our waters? Because I heard that there's no information. So that's very nice that projects are coming up, the programs are coming up to know more, and I think it will be really amazing to know much information about it. Dr. Emily, there's a question from all our audience. If you can try answering, probably they'll be very happy. How can you differentiate the work that's being done by an engineer and a scientist at space organizations like NASA itself, or be it any space organizations?
Well, I guess the maybe I'll say this. The thing that someone told me when I first joined NASA is that the power of what our organization does is it brings scientists and engineers to work together. So we're really trying to marry those two skill sets. I think we're we're trained in different ways, scientists and engineers, and there are times where I feel like my colleagues in engineering, it almost can be like we're speaking a different language. It's surprising, but I think we're trained to think in such complementary but different ways. So I think, in terms of our mission planning, really what we do is we pair those scientists and the engineers. So every satellite mission has a program scientist, and that's someone that's kind of overseeing what do we want to answer, and how are we going to measure it. And then we have the program executive, who's kind of the lead engineer from headquarters, thinking, and how do we execute it? How do we implement the processes to make that happen? So I think it's really bringing together both the questions we're trying to answer and how we're pushing that research forward with the processes that we need to put in place to make those things a reality. That's kind of the bringing together of science and engineering within our projects. I hope that helps.
I know that surely helps, and that will really make all of our students and audience understand the difference between what an engineer does and what a scientist does. As you mentioned, for any project or any program to happen, it's both of them working hands in hands and making something possible at the end. So thank you again for that answer. Dr. Emily, I have a question for you, which is based on our theme that we have today. If you were given an opportunity to empower women in space, how would you do that?
Well, right. This is a this is a big question. This is a big question, and I think, in hearing the talks earlier, I do think it's about making sure that people have a trusted network of folks that support them. I've been really fortunate to work for a number of women as my bosses and my supervisors over the years. And I can't understate how much of a difference that has made for me. Um, both in terms of seeing that representation of people who are, who look like me. I think that can make a difference, but also for when things go not great, when things go wrong, to have people to talk about those events with. So I really I mean, I think that mentorship is, and cohort mentorship, where we have kind of people in a similar stage of life, um, mentoring one another, or at least supporting one another. I think those are huge things, because at least for me, my career path is one aspect of things going on in my life. I'm also a mother of two very young children, and so that's another aspect of my life, and how to weave those things together, I think, is hard and good, and so I rely on those people to talk about all those different aspects, from, how are we going to do this thing on this mission, to, oh my goodness, I'm having this issue with my child. you know um uh and I think that's really important for people to see all sorts of different sets of responsibilities on people.
Thank you so much for that. Because again, for all those who are thinking of starting their career in the space domain, particularly those girls and women, should be aware of things that are going to come, but must not be someone who's scared of multitasking, must be ready to take up both work and the personal life together. And the way you said, those examples or someone to mentor, I personally agree to the point that if there is someone to mentor anyone, they can achieve a lot more things. And I'm so happy that Dr. Seetha is back. I hope everything is fine now, and need not worry, ma'am. We could go again. I mean, we could start wherever you left, and yeah, we can continue.
Yeah, just as I said, during satellite, when it goes behind the Mars, we lose communication. So also you were all probably waiting to see if I come back.
Exactly.
With the
Ma'am,
communication, yeah.
ma'am is
So,
showing us live how our satellite just went behind and we're not connected, you know. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was the best moment, I should say, when you wait and then when it comes out and then you the communication restarts and you know that you are in orbit. I think that was the best moment in MOM. In Astrosat, for example, this was a mission all over India, and so it was uh, the first time we switched on every payload and saw the data coming in and verified that the performance was as it should be, because this is a mission which is actually scientist driven for us. And so for us that was a major achievement. And so those were real. And every time you put a payload in orbit, this happens. As I said, it doesn't matter if it's a small experiment, a big experiment, huge satellite. Every time you see it work, it is like seeing your kid taking the next step. This is what I used to feel. And that's why we used to tell, that's why you call it deliver the payload. So,
Amazing,
and I think
amazing.
you were talking to Emily about balancing home and office. And yes, that's extremely important and becomes critical for women working in space. As I said, in India also, it's the societal context and societal conditions, the safety of women having to work at odd hours because there is a launch campaign, there is a pass, there's a satellite pass in which you have to collect this data, analyze it at that time, and so on. So so those kind of issues do come in. And I used to tell the younger women that one thing you have to do is, one is of course you have to have the perseverance, etc., etc., but they should also have the patience and at the same time firmness with which they should tell their family what they are working on, and that it is not a typical job which they have heard of. This job this career has to be explained to many of them, that this is the way it is, this is how it is. I am being given all the facilities like transport, logistics, etc., and sometimes even a guest house to stay back, and so on. But this is the job, and this is why it needs to be done this way. I think that explanation goes a long way to their understanding why it is like this. And as I said, with mom and other missions, many of the common people are understanding this and that goes a long way to help us in turn.
That is very true,
I
ma'am.
just caught on with your last few words, Emily.
Yes.
No,
Can I add?
thank you. Yeah.
Can I add something? Because I really like what you're saying, Dr. Seetha, about those boundaries. And I would say I kind of feel like I try to be equally firm in kind of my boundaries of no, today I can tell my supervisor I am leaving at this time because I have these responsibilities to my children, and then my children also understand that I have to go to work. But I think while it can be a little bit difficult to set up, at least for me, what I'm also want to do is provide that model for other women that come after me, just because I know that I am so grateful to all the women that came before me that even allowed me to have this opportunity to sit where I am. And so I think it's I think there's a responsibility to pass to further enable the future generations.
Thank you so much for both of you for adding those points, connecting the personal life and the professional life, how equally important it is, and to create that awareness among all those girls and women who are going to be part of some very interesting career like yours. Um, Ma'am, I had one question for you again. Like I actually asked the same question to Dr. Emily, asking what are the future missions of that's happening at NASA. Probably if you could also quickly just tell to all our audience what's happening in ISRO, and then I have one final question to ask you, and then we will wrap up.
Okay, so in the immediate major activity which is going on in ISRO is, of course, the Gaganyaan project, and that is the gaining the capability to actually put humans in space and also bring them back safely. More important, I should say, the second part, because that needs a lot of safety measures for humans going into space. Um, Apart from that, the very next two major science missions which are upcoming is, one is termed as the Aditya L1, which is a mission to study the sun, particularly the solar corona, the solar chromosphere, and the eruptive events on the sun. And this is going to be a mission which is going to be placed around the Sun Earth Lagrangian L1 point, in an orbit around the L1 point, and which is first for us. And we hope to get uh, great results about the sun. NASA and ESA have already gone or are going very close to the sun with the Parker probe and the solar orbiter. And we hope we can, as a entire scientific community, we can understand the nearest star, our star, the sun, much better with these missions. The second one is a small satellite mission, but equally important. It is called the Exposat, which is actually to study polarization and their spectra simultaneously of bright X-ray sources. So these are X-ray stars, primarily binaries, and we're going to actually study the polarization from these uh, X-ray sources. So it's the Exposat, and I think I should see both these missions coming, apart from NISAR, of course, coming in the next year or two. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that update for all of us to know what's coming up and what we must expect for and everything. So, ma'am, this is one common question we are asking all the speakers during this whole World Space Week, particularly the women speakers. So, the question goes to you: if you were given an opportunity to empower women in space, how would you do?
I would very much love to actually empower women. I heard Markus. I know that the number of women entering into the field of space is low. Even today, it is low. And as I said, there are lots of women in India studying STEM subjects, but somehow they are wary of entering these areas as a career. So I would like to actually dispel their qualms about entering these areas, because yes, it is difficult. Yes, yes, we have certain things which are for which you'll have to cross some standard procedures and so on, but it is not unsurmountable. So the last sentence I would like to say is, uh, if we have now, as Emily said, I have now handed over the baton to my younger colleagues, and so if I can, you definitely can, and better. That's my last statement.
Amazing. Thank you very much, ma'am, for those wonderful words and explaining us every single thing that you would have experienced in your journey. And same goes to Dr. Emily. It was wonderful to hear how how the work has been happening at NASA and what are the future missions, and personally touching upon the women factor, the encouragement factor, and this is really going to add a lot of value for all our audience out there. I would like to thank both of you for spending so much time along with us. And for Dr. Seetha, it is too late. For Dr. Emily, it is too early. But both of you still made it for this event and this talk. We're very thankful to you, and yeah, it was inspiring for me, and I'm pretty sure it will be very much inspiring for all our audience, and that meets the criteria of this whole program. So thank you once again. If you would like to add another last note to all of us, you can, and then we end the panel discussion, and then I'll let my team to take over for the next set of things.
I don't think I could say anything better than Dr. Seetha said. So I'll just say once again, thank you so much for having me here. It was a real honor and a pleasure to get to speak to this group and to get to speak with both of you today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emily.
Thank you so much, Nikhitha, and best wishes to SSERD, and all the people behind uh, those who are encouraging women. Yeah, that's what I meant. And Nikita, for all your efforts to encourage women into this emerging area, and to all those who are helping you to do it also. Thank you.
True, true, very true. I think I won't be able to do, or I personally, or we as an organization couldn't have done with so many volunteers help out there. So for sure, they are very important to this whole program. As you said, thank you for the whole team, and thank you for joining us. And yeah, I will now hand over the screen to Mehak and Ruchira. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you, Nikhitha. I will again thank all of our speakers who joined us today. It was really great to have all of you sharing such good thoughts, motivating us, telling us so much about space itself, like the missions that is going on in NASA, in ISRO, or whether in different parts of the world, and also talking about like what exactly women in space meant to everybody. It's not just like telling women to be a part of it. We also have to find a way that we can motivate them, because as Markus and most of the speakers said, that what we lack is the definite amount of models that we need in today's space industry. So I think having a good amount of role models who inspire us, who give us this opportunity, will definitely help us. And also women making sure that all they need is self confidence, and then they can manage everything so well. And also mentioning that with this, we also need to make sure that you know it is possible that at times you feel low about something, like you don't feel confident, you don't want to do something just because there's societal pressure or there's somebody who's influencing you to not do a certain stuff. But again, as our speaker said, it's what is there in your head. If you want to do it, you can do it, and nothing can stop you, as Dr. Seetha said. So we should take this motive in our heads and then move forward, that we will do it and we will together do it. We will together work for women empowerment. And yes, we will definitely be one. So, with this, I would like to thank everybody who have joined us this evening, the audience, the speakers, Nikhitha, and everybody, and definitely our team who's been helping us so much. Now, with this, I would like to call Ruchira, who would take us forward in this program.
Thank you, Mehak. It was really an amazing panel discussion. My personal favorite part of the panel discussion was to learn that how things have changed over the period of time in terms of the opportunities and technology that we have in the space industry. Also, it was really motivating to hear from our speakers, Dr. Seetha and Emily, that how they have embarked a mark in the space industry through their extraordinary journey. I would also like to thank Nikhitha for handling the panel discussion. Now, taking the event ahead, we've all gathered here for the World Space Week event, an event that is related to space, which surely tells me that we all are space enthusiasts, aren't we? Yes, we are. So, what is more exciting for space enthusiasts? Any guesses? It's the space merchandise. So, wouldn't be it a moment of pride to have a space merchandise which reminds us about the legacy and the glorious history of missions that ISRO has performed so far? On that note, one thing comes into my mind, and that is offense.com, a leading corporate gifting and merchandise company. They've been recently awarded the opportunity to produce and distribute the ISRO's official merchandise. I'm very sure after hearing the word merchandise, half of you all must have already started to look for which merchandise should I order, right? I can clearly say that the space aspires to produce high quality merchandise and collectibles for space lovers and in general for the ISRO's fans. I would also take this opportunity to mention that DSpace is the official merchandise partner for World Space Week 2021. We have another very promising and generous sponsor, that is GenX Space. It is a startup which is committed to ignite curiosity and prepare the young generation for the space era. GenX provides with courses for schools, colleges, and institutions to provide high quality all around space education for one and all. Now, proceeding with the event, I would like to take the opportunity to brief you all with the entire event and the activities that are planned for World Space Week 2021. So, the question that you all must have been thinking about is World Space Week at SSRD all about panel discussion? The answer is no. We have a number of activities to engage you all throughout the week. Just give me a moment, I'll be sharing my screen. Meg, is my screen visible?
Yes, Ruchira, your screen is visible.
Okay, thank you. So, to begin with the schedule of World Space Week, tomorrow, that is 5th of October, we have another panel discussion on the very interesting and hot topic of challenges in the pathway of space tourism. And on the panel, we have Karen Nils' daughter, who is the CEO of Spaceport, a future astronaut and a space tourist. Then we have Rajeshwari Pillai, who is a distinguished fellow and head of the Nuclear and Space Policy Initiative. We also have Dr. Shreya Santra, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Aerospace Engineering at the Tokyo University. On the same day, following the panel discussion, we have a special workshop on art of resume writing. Now, why is it important to write resume in today's time? I would say the writing resume is the need of time because it makes us unique and stand out among other applicants. It makes us showcase our strength and help us find the right opportunity and the right job. So, to help us with the art of resume writing, we have Alka Pandey, who is pursuing her MTech in Aeronautics and Astronautics from Stanford University. On the next day, that is 6th of October, we have another panel discussion on the topic of scope of privatization in the space industry. And on the panel, we have Dr. Ranjana Kaur, who is a partner DUA associate advisory on international space law. Then we have Dr. Sheila DS, who is a former ISRO scientist and also the co-founder of the Space Lab. Followed by her, we have Dr. Anjali Gupta, who is the business development life science lead from Axion Space. On 6th October, followed by this amazing panel discussion, we have another special workshop on the topic of goal setting for oneself. Now, goal setting helps us to align and focus. Setting goals not only motivates us, but can also improve our mental health and level of personal and professional success. So, to help all women and girls to fulfill their goal, to lead to the path, we have Spruti Vishwas, who is an entrepreneur, life and leadership coach, success mentor, and actress. On the next day, 7th October, the most key highlight, I would say, of the World Space Week, the amazing topic that is on the panel, that is role of art and literature in space industry. And on the panel, we have Nicole Stott, who is a former NASA astronaut and Classman Foundation. Following her, we have Deborah Sass, who is a founding partner and co-CEO of the Space Hero. Then we have Guilia Kala Basini, who is a science fiction and non-fiction writer and an aerospace engineering student. On the same day, followed by the panel discussion, we have another special workshop centric for women and young girls on the topic of menstrual health and well-being. Health and hygiene is one of the greatest concern for young girls and women. So to lay emphasis on it and explain its importance, and also about to talk about the menstrual health, we have Sarika Gupta, who is the founder of Safe and Happy Periods. She is also a social entrepreneur and a learner. On 8th of October, we have another enthralling panel discussion on the topic of theory and practical application go hand in hand. And on the panel, we have amazing four ladies to speak with, starting with Chiara Kochiara, who is an aerospace engineer and a CEO iSpace School, followed by Rachna Reddy, who is a space engineer and a podcaster. We have Reet Sorek, who is an astrobiologist, researcher scientist, and Dead Sea and Arawa Science Center. Lastly, we have Sonal Asgotra, who is the program leader at the Astrospace. On the same day after the panel discussion, a final workshop for the financial literacy for girls and women. For women to feel financially secure, they should understand the financial literacy and independence. To create awareness about some and help women to gain ability to support oneself and incredibly the influence society. We have Alpa Shah, who is an author, a social entrepreneur, and financial professional. On 9th of October, we have another topic, that is opportunities of challenge for women in the space sector. And on the panel, we have Abhilasha Purwar, who is the founder and CEO of the Blue Sky Analytics. Then we have Thihan Nguyen, who is the founder director of Space Connects, followed by Kavindini D. Silva, who is a global events lead at the Space Hero Limited. And the final and the last day of the World Space Week, for the panel discussion, we have the topic of future of space era. And the panelists that we are blessed with are Dr. Andrea Font, who is an astrophysicist from the Astrophysics Research Institute, Life Pool, John Moores University, followed by Lisa Stojanovsky, who is a former business development administrator at the Rocket Lab, USA. Then we have Preeti Sahel, who is a senior specialist director, Frontier Technology Vertical from Niti Aayog. And we have our very own CEO, Nikhitha ma'am, who has also received the Dr. Kalpana Chawla Scholar from the International Space University. To this panel, we'll also be having another guest speaker, which will be revealed soon. Now, talking about the workshops and the panel discussions comes the most awaited part, that is the competitions. So let's get started with the competition. The very first competition that we have is Once Upon a Time on Mars. Now, this is basically a story writing competition and it's open for grade 8 to 12 students. The number of participants here can be individual or a group of 2. The thing that you need to keep in mind is the word limit, which is 750 words, and the deadline to submit your work is 5th October 2021. In this, what you have to do is try and write all your extraordinary fiction story. Imagine if you were the director of Life on Mars, and pen it down and send to us in the PDF format. For the next competition, it's artistry, art full of science. And the topic for this is Earth from astronauts' perspective. The best thing about this competition is it's open to all and every art form. Mode of participation individual. We welcome digital painting, computer graphics, dynamic paintings, music, digital collage, pixel art, song, dance, poetry, every art form. But what matters here the most is the thought. Because if there's no thought in your art, it has no value. So you need to fulfill the requirement of a 1 minute video which will explain the thought of your art. The deadline to submit this is 6th October. You need to submit both the art as well as the video. A quick note, please be careful and avoid plagiarism. The third competition that we have for the World Space Week is the Space Mission. It's mostly open for the undergraduates where they can participate in the group for including 2 to 5 members. In this, they have to showcase their designing skills and design something electrifying which can be a potential solution for the space problems. For this, they again have to make a video explaining their design, which should be about a duration of 1 minute. And the deadline to submit the video is 5th October. The finalists will be selected till 7th October and will informed via mail. And the finalists will have a final presentation on 8th October. The last competition that we have for Women in Space Week is Brains on Set. What's the catch in your pitch? Now, here the targeted audience is high school students, undergraduates, and aspiring entrepreneurs. What matters in this competition is the novelty in your idea. You need to prove the novelty by a written proposal, giving the exact plan of your idea with a word limit of 500 words. The deadline to submit this written proposal is 5th October 2021. The finalists will be selected and will be informed via mail, and a final presentation will happen on 9th October, where the finalists will get a chance to pitch their ideas to the judges. Now you all must be waiting like how and when the winners will be announced. So winners will be announced on the last day, that is 10th of October. For the winners, we have our sponsors Genix, which are giving us rewards about around 3,000, and our merchandise partner, that is D Space, will be giving gift vouchers. Apart from this, the winners will also receive certificates from SSERD. On a concluding note, I would like to express my gratitude towards all our panelists, Dr. Seetha Somasundaram and Dr. Emily Sylak-Glassman, and also Markus Woltran, for such an amazing and informative event. I would like to thank Nikhitha for giving us both, me and Mehak, an opportunity to host this event. Lastly, our beloved audience for asking some really good questions throughout the event and also for being patient enough for the entire event. But remember, today is just a start. We meet tomorrow again at the same time for another panel discussion on the topic of challenges in the pathway of space tourism with the panelists Kareen Snisolder, who is the CEO of Spaceport, Rajeshwari Pillai, who is a distinguished fellow and head, and Dr. Shreya Santra, who is an assistant professor at Department of Aerospace Engineering.
Yes, so on a final note, thank you all for being with us this evening. It was fun to have you all, fun to learn from you and be a part of this event. So thank you all for being with us.